Yo, what's going on, snipers, and welcome back to our New York Islanders franchise mode here in NHL 25. So last episode, if you did not catch it, we ended up having the draft and re-sign stage, and I think we're starting to build that team, which is exciting that I want to build. Obviously, there is still room for improvement, but I think this upcoming season we should be better this season because we are going to be utilizing probably Bjorkstrand more as a center in terms of our depth chart. Normally we use him as a right winger, but he since then has developed quick draw, which is intriguing. He also has 81 on faceoff, so I think utilizing him in his actual position might make more sense. Also, it does make her stronger down the middle because we'd also have Mäkinen as that second line center instead. We have Zykov as a third line center. Eriksson would be jumping to the NHL. He could be even higher by the start of the season. And we also have guys like Kaminsky and Lindros still kicking around as depth options or bottom six options. Another really nice thing is also Fiddler, who jumped to our NHL team this season. We just drafted his guy 8th overall, and he's an 81 already out of draft, which is fantastic. So that will give us a little bit more depth as well. Leeson will be jumping to the NHL this season, which is also exciting. So we have a lot of guys that could potentially jump to our NHL team. So in general, I think our forward group is going to look a little bit stronger than it has in the last few years. And in our defensive core, still a young defensive core, a lot of good little trial contracts with some of these guys, and all of them will be like RFAs at the end of their contracts, which is also good. Like Salmelainen still has that RFA status. Boyd will still have that RFA status. And then we have the young defenseman and Latinen jumping to the NHL potentially this season. It depends really, I guess, if Pecker decides that he doesn't want to accept a contract, but likely he will. We probably do still need a depth defenseman, which I probably would prefer. Actually, maybe we don't need a depth defenseman, because if we get Pecker back, it'd be Houghton, Boyd, Salmelainen, Sierra, Latinen, and Pecker. And then Unila could be depth, hypothetically. We could or Pratt could be used as depth, even for that matter. So I don't even think we need a defenseman. The one thing that I'm a little bit worried on is the goaltending a little bit, just because Solovyov going into his last year of his contract, he is a pending UFA. There is a chance he plays great and asks a lot of money, and we don't really have a good number 2 option because it's either going to be Nikulin or Medvedov that runs away with that backup job. Eventually down the road, Hainsey should pan out, which is good, but the goaltending is still the biggest question mark I think I have with this roster going forward. But anyways, before we get into free agency and all that sort of stuff, maybe making some trades to try and find some players to bolster our roster even more so we could actually try and contend. Let's get in your guys' comments and see what you guys have to say about last episode, and then we'll get all into that type of thing. So the first comment is from Dylan Burrows, who says, get Fiddler, and I don't remember if Fiddler was a coach or a player, to be honest. So I hope that I actually am thinking of the right person. If we go to players here, let's just see what Fiddler is, just in case Fiddler is a forward. Maybe actually I should go player search instead and see if he's actually a forward here, because I honestly don't remember if he was a player or if he was a coach. He's probably a coach, I feel like, because we do need maybe a coaching adjustment this offseason. But I will look and double check if he's a player or not. It's been a bit since I recorded again, and I always forget. So, Fiddler, this guy is a free agent, so he's saying this. Oh, yeah, it was this guy. I think I do remember him now. Yeah, he's a center option. He was saying to bring in Tommy Fiddler from the Ducks. The only thing is he's asking for, I think, a decent chunk of money. However, if we bring in somebody like him, we could use Bjorkstrand as a right winger again, which is more what I was expecting with him. Fiddler's got good face-offs too. There is a chance maybe we could bring in somebody like Fiddler. He's relatively young, so he does kind of fit the mold of our team. If I was to bring him in, though, like I said, I would move Bjorkstrand probably back over to the right wing. So then it would be Fiddler and Mäkinen as the top 2 centers. Zykov and Eriksson would be the bottom 6 centers. Probably Eriksson jumps to the 3rd line. Zykov maybe more of the 4th liner. I'm not too sure on that. Kaminsky, Lindros are obviously depth options. So maybe we could do that. Maybe we could, because then that gives us that other right winger. Bjorkstrand would be top line. Cook would be probably 2nd line. And then we have Wallace as a bottom 6 option. Fido could play on that right side as well. Yeah, I think that actually might not be a bad idea. Because hypothetically, our left wing side would be Frundell, Crane, Shala. I meant to say Sale at first, but Shala. And Leeson. Fido would be playing on the right wing with Cook, Wallace, and also with Bjorkstrand. Centers would be Fiddler, Mäkinen, Zykov, Eriksson. Yeah, I think, you know what, that actually might be an option. I'll look into Fiddler a little bit more so before we offer him a contract, just because he's a pretty big free agent. But we could definitely throw our name in the hat for him. And if we don't get him, we could always use Bjorkstrand as the center and then try and trade for a bigger right winger. So maybe that's what we'd look into doing. The next comment is from Chris as a Ghost, who says, cheesing the AI does feel weird, but it's okay to cheese Vegas. And yeah, it does definitely feel weird cheesing AI, but Vegas, yeah, definitely kind of a team that it doesn't really bother me that much about cheesing. We did take their first round pick for next year when we got rid of Noah Dobson. I didn't get multiple firsts just because they're rebuilding, but I did take their first for next year. So we're hoping that obviously that becomes a lottery pick again, and that gives us another prospect that we could add to our team while maybe even being in a playoff scenario. The next two comments are from Ben Piggy, who says, you should trade prospects / picks for an elite right winger. Sucks that there wasn't much in free agency, but you have to find a way to bring in someone you know you could produce. I'd look for somebody 90 overall and trade for whatever you can to get them. And then he also says, I think it's time to start competing again. So I agree that it's definitely time to start competing again. I just don't want to accelerate it too much where we give up a ton of players to get a really good player. But we definitely could look for elite right wingers out there if the idea of bringing in Fiddler falls through a bit. Because like I said, maybe we use Bjorkstrand as a winger, even though he does have quick draw. That's the one thing I'm a little worried on. Because since he has quick draw, we should probably be using him as a center, hypothetically, right? And the fact that his faceoffs are 81, that's actually pretty solid. The fact that he's a sniper, though, I like him on the wing a bit more. And, I mean, Mäkinen could end up being that number one center again at some point. So bringing in Fiddler could be not an option as well. And instead, we just look for a right winger to be basically push Cook down to the second line. And then Sealfido would be the third line, as I was mentioning before. Walls could be a potential fourth liner. So, yeah, we'll look into both options, basically. It's either we bring in Fiddler to bolster our centers and we move Bjorkstrand over to the right side, or we find a right winger that could actually help us out a bit on that right side, because that right side is definitely weak. We do have some prospects down there, but obviously a lot of them are a long shot away from making it. So, we'll definitely look into both options and see which one is the way we want to go. In the last and final comment is from Sauron Taku, who says, since Sealfido has X factors out of the gate, there's a chance he could outgrow his potential and become an elite player. If you're going to run Bjorkstrand as a center, give him an offseason goal of improving his faceoff, since he's rather weak in that area. And he's not entirely weak. In 81 faceoffs is pretty solid, but obviously if we do want to turn him into a really good center, we should probably up that a bit. So that really depends on what we end up doing in terms of the free agency portion a lot. So we'll definitely look into that a little bit more. There was also some other comments from like Garage TV. I want to shout out him to give me some tips, and hopefully we could use some of those tips. Like he says, to do the off-season focuses and season goals and stuff like that. I do those occasionally. At the beginning of the series, I was doing them a lot. Now that we're kind of into this, it's kind of getting a bit more tedious, and also I don't want to be recording for like 2 hours or something. So I'm probably not going to still do them this off-season, but I definitely should start looking into that. Maybe I will do some of them. But not everybody on the team. Like, maybe obviously I do guys like Bjorkstrand, Mäkinen, Eriksson, but I don't do guys like Zykov, just because Zykov is a guy that's going to probably go to free agency in a few years. I probably should keep Frundell growing a little bit, Crane obviously as well. So maybe we do focus on a couple guys, but I don't want to focus on necessarily the entire team at the moment. A lot of these guys are starting to actually become really good players, so maybe it doesn't matter too much, but obviously it's a good way to keep those guys growing if they are a young enough age, basically. So anyways, with that said, let's look into... I first want to make sure we have enough coaches, because I don't remember if we have enough coaches. I think we do. Right? Yeah, we still have Jenks, we have Horvat, we have Straka, and then we don't have a goalie coach. I don't think I offered any contracts in the last episode, did I? No, I did not. So we'll find ourselves a goalie coach here first and foremost, because this is something that actually kind of is important for the team. So let's assign ourselves a nice good goalie coach with good teaching grades, basically. So that's what we'll bring in. Zdeněk Sedlak will be our goalie coach. So we'll come up board, hopefully, Zdeněk. And then in terms of that, like I said, I think we'll look into both options in terms of the center or bringing in a good right winger. So first, because we already know the center is available in free agency, let's actually go through the entire league. I know this is probably going to make this episode quite a bit longer by doing this, but we are going to look at every single right winger. Actually, let's go to player search instead. That might actually be an easier way of finding. But we are going to look for a right winger that shoots right and can potentially be a good fit for our top six. And then we'll see if we if we have the assets, basically, to get one of them. And for some reason, my brain is just completely fried right now. Do not know why, but let's just see. Right-handedness, and can I just do right wingers? Forward, I don't think I can. Let's just do a right-handed forwards, and we probably want somebody that's more of a goal scorer than anything. But I don't think I want to limit it down on player type right now. Let's also up the minimum range here to like 4 stars to 5 stars. Medium to exact accuracy. Shooting skills and stuff like that. We'll just leave all the rest of that. Let's just take a look and see if we could find some good right wingers out there. 4 to top 6 potentially. I don't know if I really want anybody too old. So you know what? We actually should maybe limit the age a little bit. Just because we are kind of looking for more younger options for this team. Not guys that are like close to retirement really. So if we go from like 17 to like 28 maybe even 29 actually could be okay. Let's try that and see if there's anything out there that is worth attaining. A lot of these guys are going to have clauses probably, but in terms of overalls, Semenov, who is on Nashville, was it? Yeah, I don't know how I remember that, to be honest. Oleg Semenov, right wing playmaker, 89 at 23. That's pretty solid, but I don't think Nashville's going to want to move somebody like that. There's also Lane Schneider in Buffalo, 88 overall power forward at 23. Listed as a second liner. Ooh, there's also this Joel Waters guy that just recently got drafted 3rd overall. But obviously I don't think that makes sense to take a guy that just went 3rd overall. But he seems interesting. Eli Anthony, 5th overall pick, 2-way forward, 86 at 22. I don't want to steal anybody too young, though, to be honest, either. Let's actually sort this by overall rating. Maybe that'll make it a little bit easier to see what we could potentially bring in. But I wanted to make somewhat sense from both teams' perspectives. Anthony's got one of the lower trade values of the bunch, probably because he's a 2-way, though. 84 26. There is Porter Martone, who is currently an RFA. That's kind of interesting, but he doesn't put up a ton of numbers right now. Last year, 50 points to season afterwards, 38 only. Yeah, Porter Martone's not really what I'm looking for that spot. We're kind of supposed to be looking for somebody that's like 90 plus almost in a sense is what, who was it that was saying that? Ben was saying 90 plus overall. That's going to be kind of tough to find because the only 90 overall right-handed guys is Savoie and Bedard. Well, I guess we could just get rid of the handiness so that way we could see if there's any left-handers that shoot right as well, on the right side as well. Let's not limit it on the handiness. See what we got here. So if we sort this by overall again, now there's a lot of 90 plus. Franchise guy in Harris. Obviously, we're not going to be able to trade for a franchise player. I'm not going to do that. Try to see if there's any reasonable players. Cutter Gauthier, 29 years old. Nah. Semenov's there again. Borderline 89 at 20, 89 at 23 for Sea-Doo. He's a left winger that just only plays left wing. I feel like the center option might be the best bet for us, to be honest, at this point. And then we just use Bjorkstrand as a right winger again. Just because it seems like a lot of these guys are going to be kind of tough. And some of them are not really the position we need. So I think that's probably what we're going to look maybe into. I like Lane Schneider's kind of intriguing on Buffalo being an 88 only at 23. But I don't think there's any reason why Buffalo would want to move this guy. I don't think so. We'll go to Buffalo just to check maybe, but I don't think there's any reason they'd want to move him. Henricius, 87 at 22. He is a sniper as well, but he's a left-handed shot. Yeah, let's go to Buffalo for a second, just see what Lane Schneider would look like. I don't think it's going to make sense for Buffalo to move that kind of guy. So we probably will look into the center instead, just because he's a free agent. I think that would make a lot more sense almost. So yeah, they don't want to move him right now, which is not really a surprise. Their best right wingers, let's sort by overall. So they have basically him as a second line right wing behind Jack Quinn. Once Jack Quinn retires, obviously Schneider's that type of guy to take that number 1 spot potentially. Quinn could also play the left side though too. So basically after them, they don't really have any other good right wingers on this team. So yeah, they pretty much need to hold on to Schneider. So it doesn't really make sense from my perspective for them to trade somebody like him. And he would probably be one of the only options I'd look at bringing in potentially. So I think instead of doing that, we're going to look and throw our name maybe into the hat for Fiddler as the center instead, and then use Bjorkstrand as the right winger. And then we don't need to train Bjorkstrand necessarily at faceoffs. So I think that's what I'm going to look into doing, is bringing in that center that Dylan was mentioning instead. throw our name in a hat for Fiddler. There's 4 teams interested as well. 86 at 26. He's a two-way forward. Like I said, he'll fit that center depth a bit better. Like him and Mackinnon could be the 1-2 punch. And then we move Bjorkstrand to the right side. We already have Fido on that right side, Cook on that right side, maybe Wallace even on that right side. So I think this is probably maybe a bit more of a logical option. The good thing is he has good organizational interest. He has 4 teams interested in him right now, so I don't know if we're going to necessarily lose this battle. But, like, Fiddler looks pretty good. He also produces on a solid level. 66 points last year, 57 the year before. He's only played 4 NHL seasons at the age of 26, which is not a lot. His playoff numbers are a little bit lacking, considering last year he had 66 points. He had no points in 4 playoff games. Last year was -9. So he hasn't been that great in the playoffs, but he has had some good experience in 2 of his 4 seasons in the postseason. So, even though he's been a little bit of a crapshoot in the playoffs, I think our team is going to be a little bit better built for him. He doesn't fit our system maybe that well either. Just a bit of a risk, but I think he's probably more realistic than bringing in a right winger. I guess from a right wing perspective in free agency, there is Jaskalainen, who's an RFA, I think. Yeah, he's an RFA. I don't think I'd be able to steal him. And I don't think I'd want to give up the assets to steal him. Yeah, I don't think so. There is a chance this guy could be a free agent in a few years, considering he's only already 24. He doesn't simulate that good, though, as a guy that was a top 10 selection right now. So maybe we'll wait a few years and see if he's in free agency. But I think, yeah, the option is going to be to try and bring in Fiddler here. So what is Fiddler looking for? He's looking for a modified no trade as well, which is interesting. Which obviously we're going to give him that modified no trade just to help out with the interest a little bit of this contract. His player requests, he actually has some requests, which is interesting because I don't see that on every single player. Then again, we never throw our name in a hat for the top free agent. His request is to be a top 6 forward and be on the first power play unit. Can I get him on the first power play unit? I'm trying to think. Probably. I mean, Mackinnon could be on the second unit. It doesn't really matter too much. We could always use Mackinnon as a winger. Fiddler could be that guy that just takes face-offs. There's probably a good way I could get him into that first-line power play. Yeah, I think I probably can. I really hope I can, at least. So, 4-year deal, to me, that's fine as a 26-year-old. We will give him more money, just to help us with the salary cap a little bit. If that's actually going to give him any contract interest, which right now seems like the only way he gets more contract interest if it goes over $8 million. Florida, Washington, and Vegas is interested right now, and apparently the Rangers are the top team that he's interested in right now. So basically, we're dueling our rivals for this top player, which is interesting. Trying to think what would be a good deal to do for him. I don't want to overpay too much, but I think I'm willing to go halfway on this bar. So something like, yeah, maybe around 8.6 for 4 years. Like I said, it is a bit expensive, but I think it's a movable contract if for some reason it doesn't work out here. So I think that would probably be our deal here. 4-team no trade, 4 years at 8.6. Yeah, I think it's definitely a movable contract. 4-team no trade is pretty basic, so we could literally trade him to 28 different teams. I'm trying to think if that works well. Yeah, I think I'll offer him something like this. I don't want to go too high and I don't want to go too little on this because obviously if we could beat out the Rangers for a good player, that would be nice little wins. So I am going to offer this to Tommy Fiddler. I don't think he's going to accept right away, but I really hope that he joins our team. So there you go. We have thrown our name in a hat for a new top line center potentially. Mackinnon could still be the top line center and then Fiddler could be number 2. Doesn't really matter too much, but I think that's the play, basically. And then we use Bjorkstrand, like I said, as a right winger if Fiddler accepts. If Fiddler doesn't accept, then I might still look into like a cheaper right winger option out there. Like we could definitely look at right wingers on every single team and see if there's options out there. So that's probably the only free agent we really need this offseason, right? Because we already have like depth forwards. We do need maybe a cap whale as well. So that could be something I look into. Trying to think. Let's see. 2, 4, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. And then we'd be signing another guy to be 15. And then we have all our defense. We are still going to be paying Pecker some money. So maybe I just give Pecker what he's asking for almost. I don't know. Because I don't really need a depth option. I may just sign a random player for the AHL for like 10 million bucks or something like that. But I think that's all we need to do is go after Fiddler. And then, like I said, if it doesn't work out, we might have to look for a better right winger and use Bjorkstrand still as a center. I think that's what we're going to look into doing. I'm trying to make sure if there's anything else I need to do before we actually start simulating, because I don't want to sim and then forget. I don't think we need to do anything else. Okay. Well, let's advance a few days and see if Fiddler will join the New York Islanders, or will he be going to the New York Rangers instead? Come on, Fiddler, please. Join our team. Help us out, because I think you could definitely be a very solid top 6 forward for us. I'm not too sure the Rangers could get him into a roster spot or what they're trying to do with him. But we do get that goalie coach, which is nice. Hopefully that helps out our goaltending a little bit. Let me go back to free agency for a second. I know it's only been 3 days, but let's just see if there's any other teams jumping into the interest for him. Yes, there is. There's 8 teams now interested. We were the 5th team. So now there's a lot more teams jumping in to try and get Fiddler, which is a bit on the scary side of things. So I really hope that we still have the highest contract interest. I could have probably given him more money than we were giving him, but I really hope that he wants to join the New York Islanders and be a part of the solution to our regular season success, basically. So let's advance, and we're going to find out soon. He goes to Florida. Of course, he goes to a tax-free state, I think it is. I have to reject your offer. I went with another team that better fits my needs. The real question is, how much did Florida pay this guy? Because I'm pretty sure Florida's a tax-free state, right? So they probably gave him a ton of money and didn't give a shit. Let's see. 7.545 is what they gave him. So that's less money than what we gave them. But obviously, yeah, they definitely gave him less money in the same amount of term and all that stuff. That really kind of sucks. Well, now we have to go to option number 2, which, like I said, is to find ourselves still another right winger, basically, and use Bjorkstrand as the actual center still. So, first, before we go to that, let's go to Bjorkstrand, give him an off-season focus of his face-offs. So that way we could get him to take some better face-off stuff this off-season, because he's going to be a center instead. And now we got to find ourselves a right winger out there that could potentially fit into our first line or second line. So let's go to proposed trade, I guess, down here, and find ourselves an option. This episode might be too long that I might not even be able to simulate any of the season yet, which kind of sucks. But let's tell you what we got here in terms of right wingers around the league. See if there's anybody I would bring in. Pasternak's only got 1 year left, but I don't want to bring in a 37-year-old that could drop off a cliff. I'd prefer a younger option. Like I said, Schneider's interested in Buffalo, but I don't think it makes really any sense for them to move him, or else he would be nice. Tuomala has an 86 at 30. Let's take a look at Samu Tuomala. He's a two-way forward. Actually produced really well in Calgary last season. 74 points, minus 18. Huh. 74 points, and a few years ago he only had 20-plus points. I feel like that guy's definitely just going to drop off a cliff or something. He got a lot of statistical growth. He is making 8.415, so he got paid after a good season like that. So I don't think Tuomala is what I'm looking for. Svechnikov's got 4 years. Jarvis is on the block, but he is 31 years old, has 6 years left at an 87 overall. That's not really what I'm looking to. Timo Meier has 1 year left on his contract as a 36-year-old. There is Joe Iginla still in Chicago. He's only 24 years old, but he's only an 82. This is a third-line scoring forward. Maybe I could save Joe Iginla from Chicago. That might not be a bad option. We were looking at Joe Iginla a few years back. He is going to be a pending RFA, I think, at the end of this year, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, Joe Iginla might actually be that type of guy. He is a lower overall, obviously. Like, he's not as good as I was expecting, but 1 good year, and he could be really good. So, maybe we look into Joe. I'll come back to Chicago for sure on Joe Iginla. Is there anybody else, though? Nagy's 85 at 22. Signed for 6 years on a bargain deal at 4.72. That's actually pretty solid. He is a sniper, too. I don't think there's any way Columbus wants to move this guy. They'd want to trade Porter Martone, who's an RFA right now. They actually do have a bit of a logjam on the right side of things. Trying to think. Owen Tippett and Marchenko have no movement clauses. Means Nagy's pretty much in that second line role almost his entire career. How does Nagy simulate? Pretty solid. Good solid goal scorer, really good playoff numbers. This guy's kind of interesting, but I don't know if it makes sense from Columbus' standpoint to move Nagy. I don't think it does. I don't know. They do have a lot of right wingers, so maybe if they moved him, it may make sense because Marchenko is technically a second liner. Tippett is technically a second liner, so those guys should be in the top 6. Nagy's more probably of a second/third line guy for them. And then Martone, that's why he's on the block, is because of all the right wingers. Okay, so let's think about Columbus too. So Columbus and Chicago are the intriguing teams right now. I'm trying to think if there's anybody else here. I know I'm taking my sweet ass time with this, and my brain is also not working at a good fast speed right now, so this episode's going to be probably long at this point. I don't even know. Sam Moskevich is already 30. Nobody there. Ryan Prex 79-23. Wow, Anthony's on the... Anthony's kind of in a weird spot. He's behind Jeremy Waugh, or not Jeremy Waugh, Joshua? Yeah, Joshua Waugh. It's weird saying like that. But the thing is, Anthony's probably going to replace him once he leaves the team. So I don't think that makes much sense. Semyonov is the best right winger by far. Kamel's second. So yeah, that makes sense that they'd have both of them still. Dawson Mercer and Luke Evangelista. Yeah, I think we're definitely going to look at Chicago for Joe Ginla maybe, or we're going to look at Columbus for Nagy. I think those are our options. Because Dumas is not really what I'm looking to get here either. JJ Peterka in Pittsburgh. There is Jaskolina still, which is good, kind of a reclamation project. He does have a little bit more value. He is signed for 3 years, and then he'd be a free agent at the end of it. So he was an RFA, but got a 3-year deal out of it. This guy's not simulating the best. Never played in the playoffs. That guy's also kind of still intriguing, to be honest, because he has upside. He's like Joe Ginla, but 1 point better at the same age. Anybody else with an intriguing player? Not so far. But yeah, I think we definitely have some of our targets, which is good at least. So we're definitely finding something here this offseason. I'm not too sure what it's going to cost us, though. I really hope it's not too much. Okay, I think we know what we need to look at. So let's go to Fine Trade and go to Chicago, Columbus, and whatever that other team was that I can't remember for some reason. We'll start out with Chicago. I don't know if we're going to find an offer on the Fine Trade, so we might actually have to make one of our own. Joe Ginla would cost us Cook, Wallace, and Pratt. It's too much. Sierra, Wallace, and Shala, no. Nope, and no. Those are way too much players. We'd probably have to give up a pick instead. I'm kind of surprised that Joe Ginla has that much. Columbus for Nagy would probably be even more so than that. Bjorkstrand and Cialfito, no. Makinen and Cialfito. Leeson and Cialfito, no. But I might still look into some deals for these type of guys. And the other team was, what team was it? I can't even remember what team it was. I was literally just talking about it, but now I can't even remember. Let's go down here. I think it was before Evangelista and all that. Was it Montreal? No, it wasn't Montreal. Trying to remember who the other option was. Yeah, honestly, I don't even remember who it was at this point. Okay, now we went too far. Oh boy. My brain really just needs to remember things like this more. I should have wrote it. Oh yeah, it was Jaskolina in Pittsburgh. What would Jaskolina catch us in Pittsburgh? Cook, a second, and Pecker, not going to happen. Not going to happen. A first, Pecker and Samalainen. Karain straight up, that's not going to happen. I'm trying to think of who I would want to pick in. I feel like Jaskolinen over Ginla might make sense just because the overall's better the same age. They're both reclamation projects. It's not a high-end addition, though. That's why I kind of like the Columbus guy a bit. Let's just see if maybe we could work out something with Columbus for Nagy. I don't know if it makes the most sense. If it doesn't make sense, then we could always go to Jaskolina on Pittsburgh. But we do need one of those guys, I think. So, Nagy has a lot of value. And they wanted a lot of players in return. Is there anything I could give to them that I'm actually okay with parting? Let's see. A lot of these guys have no value. It's not going to help things. I do have multiple firsts, but I feel like that's a bad thing to do. We have multiple second rounders. Like, even a second rounder is nowhere near close in value on Nagy. I think Nagy's out of the question, to be honest, at this point, just based on that. So I think the answer is going to be Jääskeläinen or Joe Iginla, which I don't really know if I have the assets still for them either. Jääskeläinen just got a 3-year deal, but we should be able to get him because he doesn't have as much value. So if I gave you guys, let's see, our second round pick from Vegas, which they do want. They do have interest in some of our goalie prospects too. Teufel's only a 64 at 20. That's not really that good. So I'm going to throw Teufel into this deal. He's probably going to be one of those ones that don't pan out, in my opinion. And aside from that, we probably have to give up another player too in this deal. Kasivi's unsigned as a medium 4. 60 at 8 at 18 is pretty good though. Period at 67 at 19 is not very good, I think. 62 at 18. We actually do have a lot of defensive prospects. I might be okay with parting with one of those right-handed defensemen, potentially. Appel has like no value. Bowie has no value. Maybe I'd have to part with one of these right Ds. And at this point, I would probably lean towards... We just drafted Walter, right? What round? Second round. Pierietta was a first-round talent, though. Kasivi was a second-rounder. Who would I part with out of the 3 of these guys? Who would I part with? 39, 17, and 39 again. 68 at 6 points better. Same age, though, too. Yeah, I feel like the option I would move probably is Pierietta because he's already the 19 out of the bunch. I know he was a first-round talent, but 67 at 19, he's going to be like a 70-something, maybe at 20. And he's unsigned still, is the thing. Yeah, you know what? I think Pierietta would be the option to add here. So I give up Pierietta and Teufel. Basically 2 prospects. They get a defensive prospect, a goalie prospect, and they get a second rounder that we just got from Vegas in the Noah Dobson deal. And we get somebody on a 3-year deal who's a reclamation project. He's not the highest overall, but he could definitely compete with Cook on that top 6. And maybe he could start scoring at the NHL level. He's only been a 20-goal scorer one time. So it is a huge risk that this guy doesn't even pan out. But we're not giving up a first rounder, so I don't feel terrible about doing this. I think it's a good little change of scenery for this Jääskeläinen guy because he's 24 already. So I think this is the deal we're going to do. So let's do this, see if this works. That's rejected, okay? They do not like the value whatsoever. So I'm going to have to maybe add some more draft picks to this deal. But we do need to get ourselves another right winger here. It's either that where we go to free agency or maybe just trade for Porter Martone. But I don't think Porter Martone's the answer here. I just don't. Let's give up a random third rounder for 2035. I feel like we'll be contending by that point anyways. So a second, a third, and 2 prospects. There we go. So might be a little bit of an overpayment. And like I said, it's a reclamation project with Jääskeläinen. But he was a top 10 selection, and he will basically compete with Cook on that right side. And who knows, maybe he'll become a really good goal scorer. He does have more trade value than Cook. I think that's a solid trade. I'm hoping that obviously it pans out for us. He's already signed for 3 years. And then maybe we could lock him up long term if he's starting to score goals on this team. He's definitely going to get a lot more ice time with this team, probably, over Pittsburgh. So if we look at our forwards, now we have enough forwards probably for the season. We have enough defensemen. We probably still do need a cap whale. We do need one RFA to accept his contract if he's willing to soon. Because we're at $40 million in cap space. So let's just give Pecker maybe actually what he was asking for. I know it's a bit of a trial run, but let's give him what he's actually asking for. I feel like under $5 million for 5 years is a kind of solid contract. So you know what, Pecker, take the money at this point. I don't really care too much, and then I still do need some cap whales, which is kind of really dumb that I need cap whales. But this might be one of the last off seasons we need to do this type of thing. So Let's find ourselves some players to just basically sign to AHL, well, not to AHL deals, but give them basically contracts so they could play in the AHL. And that way our AHL team can maybe be a bit stronger next year too. But we'll look for younger options like Lakovic, who's only 26. Not anybody too old. So, Lyndon Lakovic, you could take a ton of money, man. We'll give you whatever you want, really. Take 13.3. Sure. There you go. That knocks us down to 24. We still probably need one more cap whale. That's like a $6-7 million contract. It's kind of funny that we need cap whales still at this point. But this will give us a little bit more depth in the AHL and NHL, I guess, technically, too. There is no Noel Franson, who's still there. He was with us last year in the AHL and in the NHL recently, too. So we'll bring back him as well. So that way we have maybe another depth defenseman in case of multiple injuries. So we'll do like a $6-7 million deal for him as well. $8 million, you know what? That's fine. Boom. All right, so now we should be cap compliant. We got everybody we need. Like I said, I don't think I want to sign any backups because the young guys deserve a chance. So I think we're good to simulate to next season already. I don't think there's anything I need to bring in this offseason. Trying to think. I know I could definitely do the focus stuff still. But I know that this is going to make this episode extra long. Let me do a few players. I don't want to do too much because you guys, I know, don't like sitting through this type of thing. But I know I should be doing this. But it's doing it by myself. That's kind of boring. I'd rather record it almost in a way. But let's just improve a few things here. And just try and see if we could get some of these players to grow a little bit better. Just because it probably is something we should actually be focusing on. But we sometimes just let it be. And maybe that's hurting us in this rebuild a little bit, right? Let's go with offensive skill for Crane. Doesn't really matter too much on some of these guys. I'm excited, though, for the upcoming season. We'll probably simulate a little bit in this episode because I'm only like 40 minutes around of recording, but I had to record the intro multiple times because I'm just completely out of it right now for some reason. But Fido, you were what type of player were you? A two-way forward, I think. Let's just go with awareness. Sure. I'm excited, though, for the CCO Fido. Considering it was an 81 out of the draft as a top 6 forward, like, that's probably one of my most exciting players for the upcoming season. There is a lot of AHL talent still that has yet to make it, like Leahy, for instance. But I think those guys will be good soon enough. Jaskalina, let's also try and get him to start shooting the puck maybe a bit more. Since we just brought him in, let's try and see if we could turn him into a really good sniper for our roster. Because I think he's definitely a good little option in case. I think he's better than Iginla too, because Iginla, like I said, one lower overall point, same age. So might as well go with the guy that's a little bit better. And I don't feel like we gave up that much to get him. A second and a third could be literally anything, the low 6, medium 9s. So, to me, honestly, it's not that big of an issue. But some people might not like that deal too much, but I think it's probably a good little one. It's not the 90 overall player that you guys were hoping for, but it is a guy that could potentially become a good goal scorer. And that's what I'm hoping on. Okay, so I think that's probably all I'm going to give up for now because I don't have time to do all this stuff. So let's continue to simulate. And let me actually edit our trading block because people are still trying to trade for Boyd, even though Boyd's not on the block. Or he shouldn't be on the block. I didn't want to actually go to the trade, goddammit. I wanted to edit our trading block. We want to go decline and edit trading block. Everybody seems to think that Boyd should be getting dealt, which I don't think he should get dealt. So, but I think our team, I think we are going to be better than last year, but I'm not too sure on how much better. Like the defense, I think is getting stronger. The depth is getting a little bit better, and it will be interesting using Bjorkstrand as a center rather than as a winger. Like, that's the one thing I'm interested in, seeing how he adapts and how his offense adjusts. Like I said, he is a pending RFA at the end of the year, too. So we will have to give him some money this offseason. But I think I am okay with committing to him probably long-term. Because he seems to be one of these guys that's decently growing and helping out the team a lot. Like, he's part of the core of the future, I think. Like him, Frundell, Crane, those type of guys. Alright, so we should be near the end of this offseason. I didn't take a look at any of the AI signings, but whatever. It's already been a little bit of a long episode at this point, I think. So might as well just get to the start of next season and see what we are looking like. So, let's make sure everybody is in the right spot in the NHL or AHL for that matter. So roster moves. What do we got? Goalies. Solovyov, Medvedov as a 77. And Nikulin will also come up here as a depth option for the start of the season. I think that's actually an okay move. We'll probably only simulate a few games before we actually make a decision on those goalies. But that way Smits and Hainsey could run the AHL as the goaltending tandem. And then we could kind of have a little duel between Nikulin and Medvedov for that backup position. Or we could just run 3 goalies in the NHL this year. One of them gets scratched majority of the time, but I think that might be a play too. We don't necessarily need a 2 depth forwards up here. From a defensive standpoint, we do not have a depth defenseman, that's the area we definitely need depth in. So I am going to have to send somebody on the forward side of things down, which is going to be Lakovic, the cap whale. He's going to get sent down. So we do need a depth defenseman for the NHL. Latin should be in the lineup, I feel like, which right now... Oh, right now he actually be with scratched. Okay. I can kind of see why we didn't need to necessarily bring another... Oh, Franzen's there. That's why Franzen is weird. We'll send Franzen down. He was another cap whale. I'll call up Latin, and we'll call up Pratt, I guess, is the other option. So those will be the NHL, and there you go. That's now better. And then Boyd will be getting still top 4 minutes, which should be okay with his ice time, because we'd have 4 top 4s, 1 top 6, and 2 depth defensemen. So we might be still a bit weak on defense, but that's better. Right wingers, Cook, Jaskelin, and Wallace. Do I have anybody that I would not want to have scratched here? Crane, Frindell, Shala, and Sealfido. And then we have Bjorkstrand, Makinen, Eriksson, Zikov, Lindros, and Kaminsky. That should be okay. That should be okay. Let's get some lines reworked here. Let's get them reworked and see what we're working with. So I definitely want Jaskalainen in that top 6. There's no question about it. Sealfido is a playmaker, right? Yeah, he's a playmaker. I remembered it now. We'll put him on this right side with Eriksson, who's up to an 83. So that's where I was hoping he would grow to. That's really nice. Bjorkstrand actually maybe top line right wing instead. And maybe second line is okay. It doesn't really matter too much. Shala up here. Kaminsky down. Yeah, I think this actually looks pretty damn solid. Yeah. Who is scratched then? Lindros. Yeah, Lindros is fine to be a scratch as a low 6. And like I said, we could definitely trust around with the goaltenders. Pratt as a healthy scratch is fine as well. Sierra and Latin can't play together. That's not great. That's not what I was hoping for. Let's see what I could rework here. Oh man, our defense doesn't have the best chemistry unless I go with that, but then Boyd's not going to be happy about his ice time unless he's first PK. Yeah, you know what? I'll put him on the first PK and then he might be okay with that. So if I go to penalty kill here, he already is on the first PK. Okay, hopefully he's good with his ice time. That's what I'm hoping for at least right now, but this actually looks okay. I am a little bit worrisome about having so many shooting guys on this one line, though. Because Crane's a good goal scorer. Bjorkstrand's faceoffs did not get better in the offseason. And a Jaskelin, like I said, is a sniper that we just brought in. Cook is also a sniper, though. So we might have a bit too much snipers in that top 6 almost. I feel like I should probably separate these lines a little bit. Frundell is only an 85, but he's going to jump back up to an 89 soon, so that's okay. Yeah, I think this looks okay. Alright, let's see. Special teams, let's make sure chemistry is good. Sealfido getting first line power play. I don't hate it, but I feel like Cook should probably be in that spot over him. So let's get Sealfido running that second unit instead, just because that might make a little bit more sense. Cook on the point's okay too, but I would run Jaskalainen as a point defenseman instead. Sealfido probably should be in instead of Zikov on this power play unit. Crane could actually take face-offs, which is kind of nice, so we'll move Crane to center. I think that's what I just said, right? Yes, it did. Okay, good. So we'll move Zikov out of this power play. I know he was good last season, but we got to prioritize the youth on this team, so that's where Sealfido will come in. He'll play a Shala as well, and then Cook comes off this unit. And we give it to another defenseman. We'll give it to Salmalainen on this power play unit. I think that's good. Yeah, I think we're good. I think we're good. Let's just double check the AHL here briefly. Make sure nobody is scratched that shouldn't be. Oh, I forgot about Leeson. He should probably be in the NHL, and then we could probably, for the time being, send down Kaminsky. I think that's what we're going to do. When we're testing out these goaltenders, we're going to basically have Kaminsky in the AHL for the time being. But once we send one of the goalies down through waivers, we will do that. Olin also probably should be up here, hypothetically. But he is a depth forward, so that's all right for now. So we'll send down Kaminsky, I guess. Or should I send down Lindros? You know what? Let's send down Lindros instead of Kaminsky, considering Kaminsky could play both positions. That way I could get the right guys into the NHL at least. Like, Leeson definitely needs to make that jump, so that will make us even a little bit stronger, which is nice. A little bit more defensive as well in that fourth line. So that's all good and set up. AHL. Wow. I don't really care about Lakovic because he was the guy that we just signed as a cap oil, so let's just don't care about his lineup position at all. But his AHL team also looks pretty solid, to be honest. Rathgate's medium 9. Leahy should be first line center. Giordano's also pretty damn solid, so let's move him over here. Honestly, there's so much prospects that I'm not even too sure where I want to put people in. Goddamn. We don't have any scratch players, so that's alright. Not the best defensive chemistry down there. Maybe something like that. Don't think there's any way to get rid of that minus. Alright, that's fine, I guess, for now. We'll come back to it at some point, but it's looking good. It's looking good. We do have guys, like I said, that could jump to the NHL right away almost. Like, Leahy's pretty close. We have Giordano who's close. Olin should maybe be up here. Lindros as well. We'll definitely call up one as a depth option once we send down a goalie, which probably happens next episode. But I think we're ready to start simulating a little bit of the season and seeing what this team could do. I don't want to simulate too much because or else this team's going to shit the bed maybe. So I don't want to obviously be too much behind the 8 ball. But let's simulate a little bit just at least to see what this team is doing so far. I want to make sure all the goalies almost get into some games. So is the thing. So that way we can make a decision on who should be the backup and who shouldn't. So let's go to this. And maybe for the preseason I don't even play Solovyov. That could be a thing maybe. I don't know. We'll look into it. But in terms of our coaching staff, let's just go to season. What is the preseason thing? Let me see for a second because we didn't do preseason. Let's focus on our power play. Power play, I think. Yeah, let's focus on our power play. Trying to make sure we're good offensively. And in our season goal, what do you think about our roster and coach? He thinks we're good enough to compete for a playoff spot. All right, well, we'll see if we actually do make the playoffs this year. We'll see if that happens. So I do want to actually go to stop the simulation for a sec because I think I'm going to take Solovyov out of the lineup for the preseason and then run the 2 backups, and that way we can make an educated decision before the start of the season maybe on who's the backup. I know preseason isn't end-all be-all, but I think that's a good idea. So Medvedov and Nikulin, you guys are both going to compete here in the preseason. One of you is going to get sent down and be a scratch in the AHL, and I'm not too sure on who it is. But we might as well give both those guys some preseason time, just so they could fight for it. One of them could get called back up again at some point if they don't get claimed, though. So, let's see. Who is going to become the better of the 2 goalies in the preseason? And let me edit the trading block again, because I hate that it resets at the start of the season. Just makes no sense. There you go. Let me just get rid of that. Because Boyd is not getting dealt. He is not a guy I want to trade away yet. But I feel like we should be better this season, just because I feel like our 4th line's a bit better defensively than it was last year. So I feel like we could simulate better. But 3 and 4 in the preseason, so around 500. Let's take a look at those goaltending and numbers and see who should be the guy for us this season. So, wow, Howden was over point per game in the preseason. Shout out to him. He's also developed, for some reason, relentless, which is kind of weird as a defenseman, but I'm okay with it. So he's kind of like Bobby Orr almost. So Nikulin had an 860, Medvedov an 854. Both weren't the best in the world, but I think it's Nikulin's backup position for the time being. Yeah, I think I'm going to send down Medvedov. Like I said, he could come back up at some point, but I'm going to send him down. That way we have our multiple depth options, because I just feel like it's kind of dumb having a healthy scratch goalie in the NHL. So we will send down Medvedov. He's actually the worst of the bunch in terms of overall rating too. We'll send him down, and we'll call up the one depth forward, which, who do I call up? Oland or Lindros? We already have a center/left winger. How good is Kaminsky on faceoffs, though? How good is Kaminsky on faceoffs? 80. That's actually pretty nice. We'll call up Oland as the other option. Hopefully he doesn't complain. If he complains, he might get sent down, though. But let's go back to edit NHL lines here. Readjust our goaltending so that way we get Solovyov in. And then we could actually start simulating some of the season. We'll probably only simulate like 10 games or so, maybe 15 or 20 at most, but I don't want to simulate too much. Because like if this team falls off a cliff at the start of the year, there's no way we're getting back off this cliff. So let's get Nielakainen on the top line. Doesn't really matter too much where these guys are playing, but as long as they're getting their ice time. And they would assign me this defenseman who's going to have to play forward, which is kind of dumb, but is what it is. Let's go to this here. This doesn't matter too much who's playing on this pairing. Boom. All right. We are good to start simulating. Good to start simulating. Is this team a playoff team? Is my next question. I honestly don't even know, to be honest, if this team's a playoff team. I actually should take a look at the scheme fit. Maybe that will dictate if we're actually going to be a playoff team or not. But I don't feel like it's going to make a huge difference. But let's just take a look at what our coach's fit is here. What does Jenks think? 55%. That's actually quite low. Maybe we need a different coach. I don't know. Let me take a look at the coaching options again for a second here. 55 seems really low to me. Let's see. 54, 60. There's not really anybody super crazy high. There's some 60s, but is that going to impact our team that much more? 60% on Bonvi. I could maybe bring in Bonvi. Let's bring him in as an AHL assistant coach if he'll accept it. I don't know if he will. I'll give him a ton of money, and then we'll just see if he's a better fit for our team at some point. But I just want to bring in another coaching option in case, because I feel like we might start simulating bad just because the coach isn't the best fit for our team right now. But we'll see. We will see, because that preseason was kind of mixed. So will this coach accept, even though it's a way lower qualifying job? And yes, he will. Okay. So if I go back now to the coaching staff, I could definitely still readjust this. Let's move Jenks down to AHL goalie coach for a second. Bonvi, let's move you to our head coach for a second. And then Jenks, you could be AHL, maybe not AHL assistant. Let's move Straka down and get Jenks up as the NHL assistant for the time being, just to see how that works. Because maybe this will make our team simulate better, having a better coach there. All right. Well, now that we have a different coach in, let's see how this team is going to do. Like I said, we're not going to simulate too much, but we want to see if our team could get off to a good start. So let's go to the 31st of October to Halloween, see what we do here. See if we could start off on a good note. Don't care about Tyler Tucker, no offense. Colorado, 3-2 win to start the season. That's pretty good considering Colorado's been a good team in this franchise mode, so not a bad way to start off. Vancouver, 5-3 win, all right. Carolina, 4-2 win, okay. We're starting off pretty good, but then there's a 7-3 loss to Detroit. And Edmonton is a 5-3 loss. So I was about to say before I went into Game 4, I was going to say this team's going to come crashing back down. These last two games haven't been as good for sure. But it started a little bit better. Obviously, I want to simulate a little bit more just to get a better taste. So 5 games is not enough. 5 games is definitely not enough. So, let's go to the end of November. It's one more month. We'll stop it there. And we'll see what we're looking like at that point. There's a win. There's another win. Okay, first shot of the season. Love to see it. We also do beat Calgary in a shootout. So maybe this team's off to a better start than other years for sure at this rate. But I'm not too sure what's making a difference. Maybe Solovyov's just going to start playing good this season just because obviously he's in a contract year. Eriksson's already been injured to start his NHL career, so that's kind of unfortunate. Sore hip, but he will be back relatively soon. But that's still not an injury I want to see. There's 3 straight losses, oh no. Now we're crashing back down to earth, but there's a win over Montreal. Now Pekkar's been injured with an injured shoulder. That's unfortunate, out till the 30th. So multiple injuries here in the first few months of the season. Kaminsky is going to come back out. Sealfield's already jumped up to an 82. Ooh, I'm excited to see what his stats are looking like. Eriksson jumped back down to an 81. So now we should have, what's his name in the lineup? Yeah, Pratt's in the lineup. That's good. I don't mind having Pratt in the lineup because he's an offensive defenseman and all that. So let me stop the sim because I can't see what's going on again because this friggin' glitch that's been in the game for way too long. We did beat Toronto. Nashville, St. Louis to end off the simulation in this episode. A win, and Frundell has been injured with an injured knee. It's only for like a few days, but we are actually getting kind of ravaged with injuries here early on in the year, which is not great. We'll get Pekker back into the lineup here. But yeah, I don't like the injuries to start the year. It's probably better to start the year though than it is to end the year. I don't know. So there we go. We'll go with that. And we got one more game, and it's a shootout loss. But 11-7-1. It is definitely a better start than the last few years. For sure. It's not insane, but it's definitely a better start. Let's take a look at what's been going good for our team so far. So right now we're 18th in goals for. So our offense is, I feel like, better than last year to start off the year, at least. We are 13th in goals against. We're 20th on the power play, though. So that power play needs to be better. Our penalty kill is 93.6%. So our penalty kill has been pretty solid. It's number 1 in the league at the moment, actually, for that matter. So, I didn't even take a look at if this coach actually fits our chemistry that well. He doesn't really, to be honest. I'm not too sure I'm a fan of this coach's chemistry so far from what I'm seeing. Maybe he's why our power play is not simulating well. But he is a higher overall rating. Let me actually go to that for a second and take a look at this coach. This episode's definitely going to be a long goddamn. Because my voice could barely keep up. Here, Bonvie is a 58%. Do I go back to Jenks? I don't know if that's why we're still in better. I feel like for now I keep it with Bonvie, but maybe we go back to Jenks again. Bonvie just stays on the coaching staff. Because I don't know if we kind of rushed it a bit with the coaching adjustment. We'll come back to that next episode for sure. Aside from that, how is our team simulating as a whole? Or as individuals, I should say. Okay, looks like we're getting some depth scoring. That's actually promising. Bjorkstrand is under point per game, 17 points, though. He's going to need his contract extension this offseason, so I probably should give it to him in next episode already. How's his face-off spin, though? 56%. He's actually been pretty damn good on the dot. It's nice. Makinen's on 15 points, so he's been good. 10 goals already. Eriksson's on 8 points, -8, though. Eey. The -8's kind of worrisome as a two-way forward, but 8 points is solid. Kaminsky, 3 points, 4 games. Zykov, 1 goal in 19 games. He's definitely not doing as well because he's got a low amount of ice time this year. Left wing side of things, Crane on 18 points. Frundell's on 18 points before his injury. He will be back soon, though. Sealfield's already got 13 points in his first 19 career games. Already 4 power play points. That's nice. Shala's off to a way better start than last year, too. Only 1 goal in 19 games, but 12 points. So his offense is already improving. And then we have Leeson, the elite guy that we drafted quite a while ago. He's got 4 points, 19 games, but he's got 14 penalty minutes, been even 0. He's been defensive, and that's all we kind of need from him right now. Cook on 15 points, only 3 goals for Tyrone Cook. And he's a pending free agent at the end of the year. Tyrone Cook is a weird one. I don't know what we should do to him in terms of contracts, but he's dropping off in production quite a bit. He has had a lot of 30-goal seasons, but this year he's on pace for way less than that, I think. Jaskalainen's been okay with us so far. 12 points, 7 goals. So he's almost... Yeah, he's on pace definitely for a career-high year with our team. So I think that was a good little addition so far. He could definitely give us some more goal scoring. Obviously, like I said, he's not the highest-end elite player, but he could be. Wallace on 2 assists, no goals so far, 19 career games for Wallace, but he's definitely more of a defensive power forward. And then from a defensive standpoint, Houghton's only on 9 points. So a little bit of a down year for Ole so far. Like 9 points ain't too bad for 19 games as a defenseman, but I don't know if he's going to hit as much points as he did last year. I really hope he does, though. Latinen on 7 points, plus 9 for the young defenseman. That's actually pretty impressive. Shout out to Kari. Then Salmon on 7 points, Boyd on 6, Sierra on 4, Pecker on 3, Pratt nothing at 2. And in the goaltending, Solovyov's on a 915, which is the best of his career to start off the year. He's already played 1,000 minutes this season. Nikulin's not off to a great start as a backup option, but Solovyov's a pending UFA. We might need to pay this man next episode right away, or we might have to find ourselves a different goaltender, because it's going to be probably pretty pricey to bring somebody like Solovyov back at this point. But hey, wait, actually, that's a good little contract. That's definitely a contract I'm willing to give him. 8 years at 7.5. We might be able to snag him up before he demands too much. Considering he's on a 915 save percentage right now, this is a good deal. If he continues like that, that is. There would be no clause involved as well. I think we definitely got to try that contract next episode if he wants to accept that. So that's that, and I think that's going to do it, guys, for this episode of New York Islanders franchise mode. So, not too sold on our start necessarily. 11-7-1 solid, but it's not as good as I was expecting, but it is better than the last 2 years. So that's at least a promise that our team is starting to do good, but I'm not too sure really if this team is going to continue to play like this, if they're going to start improving. There's still a lot of season to go, so next episode we probably won't simulate the rest of the season, but I really hope that this team continues on the at least winning pace, and that way we can make ourselves a playoff team potentially this year, because I think there is a chance that we could make it to the playoffs, but it really depends on if guys like Jääskeläinen take that huge next step, if Cook obviously starts scoring goals again, because I feel like right now we're definitely still a little bit weak, especially on that right side of things, so that still needs to improve, but I think if those guys grow, it would definitely make us a lot stronger. So thanks again below, and I'll see you guys next time.